With most audio processors, a single instance is usually enough to get the job done. But when it comes to compression, it's not uncommon to end up with multiple compressors applied to the same signal. The most common way this occurs is when tracks are subgrouped together, with compression applied both to individual tracks and the subgroup master. The classic example would be a multi-track drum recording. It's pretty standard to insert individual compressors on the key elements of the kit, typically kick and snare, and sometimes toms as well. Occasionally, compression may be applied to the stereo overheads, and if room mics were employed, to these too, to emphasize the ambience. All of these individual drum tracks will likely feed into a drum subgroup, and it's also common practice to strap a compressor across this stereo drum master. So the mixer may end up with a number of compressors being applied to the kit in various ways. If each is used appropriately, rather than building up into an excessively squashed signal, they can each contribute something unique to the kit, and together create the kind of fat, punchy drum sound we tend to take for granted nowadays. Of course, the key is to apply just the right type and the right amount of compression in each instance so they'll all work together harmoniously. Let's take a fairly simple example where individual compressors are used on the main, close-mic'd kick and snare tracks, and another is inserted on the drum subgroup master. The drum sub combines the individual kick and snare tracks with the overheads, which, in addition to cymbals, also contains all the components of the kit. So the kick and snare will be multiply compressed by their own close mic compressors, and again, when both those tracks and the more distant versions of those drums in the overheads are hit with the overall subgroup compressor. So how do you get all this compression to work together properly? Well, in this case, each of the processors may be used to focus on a different, specific aspect of the drum sound, complementing each other in the finished signal. The kicks compressor could be tuned to bring out the boom in that drum if desired. While the snares unit could target any overring, tightening it up for a more solid crack. The different settings that would be used for each will be covered later in clip number 4. When each of those drums has been shaped as desired, the overall compressor can be applied more subtly, possibly to bring up any air in the recordings, especially the overheads, and impart a bit of overall push to the drum set as a whole, helping glue the components of the kit together, to use a popular expression. If all the settings are well chosen, the drums should retain plenty of punch while enjoying some nice fatness and a more in-your-face quality that helps them cut through the mix. Another scenario where multiple compressors might be used on the same signal is to separately address different aspects of the audio. Let's say there's a track which might benefit from the kind of subtle thickening that the right kind of compression can impart. A smooth compressor with a somewhat lower threshold and ratio that gently compresses the entire signal could provide this. But maybe this same track also has a few notes here and there that jump out, uneven performance dynamics, or the occasional strong transient, like from a hard plucked or slapped note. The gentle thickening compression effect probably won't be enough to tame these, but if the settings are changed for more aggressive compression, the track might either lose its nice fatness or end up sounding too squashed overall. This is where a second compressor, in line with the first, may do the trick. The second unit can be employed more as a limiter, higher ratio, higher threshold, set to affect only the errant notes or transients, without really touching the lower level parts of the recording that are being affected by the first unit. Though there are no hard and fast rules, to be able to grab just the occasional outer bits more easily, this second limiting compressor should probably be inserted first in this compression chain, followed by the more gentle thickening comp. Some virtual compressors even incorporate this kind of thing to make life easier. The stock Logic compressor includes an independent limiter, which makes this kind of division of labor even simpler to implement. So don't be afraid to double up or even triple up on compression. With a little practice, you'll get the hang of using multiple compressors appropriately, and you'll be able to exert the kind of dynamic control and effect needed for every situation.